moist. Not, yeah, well, moist, yeah. I mean, the Indians lived in that part of the world. The Appalachian Mountains are very old mountains, so the caves are very old. When I say very old, I can't tell you in years, but they're millions of years old. We went into all of them when we were young boys, and we were always looking for a connection. Figuring, well, if they're that close to each other, maybe if we go far enough into one, we'll find that it leads into the other one, and we can come out somewhere other than where we went in. We won't have to go back and use the entrance as an exit. We'll find another way out, like the animals.
Welcome to Light It Up. This is a new talk and audience participation show which will air live on the second Friday of each month from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Standard Mountain Time. I am public radio host and DJ Buddha Bomb, host of Lighten Up. Light It Up will focus on topics that need to be discussed. I will have one or more guests join me on each show. Light It Up is not just a talk show, it is an audience participation show. We will be inviting the viewing audience to ask questions or add perspectives in the online chats and also in a call-in phone line. Tonight I am joined by three esteemed guests: Brigitte Mars, Renaissance woman, herbalist, author, professor, psychedelic sitter, and end-of-life doula. Brigitte is a local celebrity affectionately called Boulder's favorite hippie. Bethy Lovelight, conscious hip-hop musician who will be adding live music and her own perspectives to this show, and Jenna Melling, herbalist, master gardener, owner of Let It Be Honey and More store in Lyons, Colorado. We are broadcasting out of the Family Moons Clubhouse in Boulder, Colorado. For the past few months, this music studio has been converted to a live streaming studio. Every Thursday night, we live stream the Artists Collective Family Moons dance series called Syntonic Sessions. Additionally, I am live streaming a music series called Ambient Odyssey, which airs every other Monday. Thanks to Raja Ananda of Family Moons, who is providing technical assistance for Light It Up tonight. My intention in producing Light It Up is to open up dialogues about topics which need to be discussed. Light It Up is intended to shed light on what is happening in the world and what we can do to make improvements to our own lives and to those around us. Today is September 11th, 2020. We are in the midst of a worldwide health crisis. We are also being inundated with all sorts of information. It seems impossible to decipher what is real or fake news. We are in an infodemic. We are living in a country with great social inequality, which has led to social unrest and even violence in some cases. Politics have divided us, not brought us together. The focus of today's show is to navigate through the current chaotic situation that we are in. We have divided tonight's show into three major segments. First, we're going to talk about how we can best improve our lifestyle, health, and mental outlook. Then we will talk about what we can do in case we fall ill or someone around us falls ill. Finally, we will be talking about death. What is death? Why are we so afraid of it? What can we do to prepare ourselves for the inevitable? I would like now to open up the discussion to my precious guests. Brigitte, would you get the ball rolling here with some words about how we can improve our health?
Surely. Well, this seems to be a real time to wake up and pay attention to what's going on. So I'm really big into taking care of our health all the time, not just when there's a pandemic. And I think there's a few simple things we could do, such as eating all the colors of the rainbow. Every different colored food has different phytonutrients in it. We will be taking calls later on, so if you're listening right now, I think later on in the show we'll be welcoming calls. So if you could hold your calls and call us back, that would be wonderful. So eating, things that are red, things that are orange, yellow, green. Green really needs to be at the foundation. And I am also a big advocate for asking people to get off the things they're allergic to. Very often we crave things that are undermining our health. It could be different for different people, but we know that things like dairy and eggs and sugar and gluten, which is in wheat, rye, barley, spelt, kamut, we know that these things are commonly allergenic, and I'm not saying that everybody is, but very often the things we crave the most might be things we're allergic to. I feel like a really important way that we can bolster our immunity is to eat some fermented food. And this doesn't mean something that's been left in the refrigerator for, 10 months. It means learning about the properties of health-giving things that fill our bodies with probiotics, like sauerkraut, unpasteurized sauerkraut, kimchi, unpasteurized miso, even in small amounts kombucha. And very often we undermine our health by using things that are addictive and dangerous. You know, if you're still smoking cigarettes or drinking too much, or even things like not getting enough sleep. It's not only about what we put in our body, it's about the whole lifestyle thing. So I see this as a real opportunity for improving your health every day. And it's not just because of the current pandemonium, I like to call it. It's really because having this temple body is a gift, and you get to live in it, and if you take care of it, it's going to suit you a lot better as long as you're here on the planet. And we'll talk more about some other things, but fermented foods, and I just want to say that there are using more culinary herbs can bolster our immune system. The immune stimulating properties of garlic and ginger and cayenne pepper, things that we already have in our house, are also good for us. So rather than thinking the only thing we can do to build health is to stay away from everything, we should embrace and bring into our bodies what can be our allies to make us inhospitable to pathogens that could be lurking around.
Okay. Bethy Lovelight, what would you add to that?
The time is now. Stand up and speak out for what you know is true, yeah. And everything we gotta do, offer up your solutions, make all your resolutions. Let's decrease our pollutions, see through the illusions. Oh, 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 I'm your boomerang. Huh, 'cause I'm always coming back again. You and I are in the same tribe. Come on, it's time that we unify.
Beautiful. All right. And, Jenna.
Yeah, I am here to speak about bee products and other things that I feel like are really beneficial for our systems. And one thing that Brigitte touched on was fermented foods, and it cued me in to want to discuss royal jelly, which is a food that is fed to the bee larva, and it's like a creamy substance, sort of like a yogurt consistency, that's actually known to have natural probiotics in it, and lots of good stuff like B vitamins and essential fatty acids, and it's actually a natural anti-inflammatory, and so you can use it both on the outside of your body for skin care and rejuvenation, and also taken internally, it gives you loads of energy. It can help with, just it's very cleansing and healing, and it gives you wonderful, loving, nurturing, joyful, just good stuff. It's lowers your blood sugar, it keeps you in check, and it can help with fertility and energy. It's good stuff. Royal jelly.
Hello. Thanks for calling Light It Up. It's not coming through. Hello?
We may.
Yeah, Roger would do it. Does anything need to
I hear somebody.
Oh, you're coming. We're just about to get you streaming through here.
Okay.
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 Jenna, I remember you talking about fermenting garlic in honey.
Yeah, that's another good thing.
Another
you can
good
do.
fermented food.
Yeah.
So it's good to remember that, throughout history, people have relied on natural antimicrobial agents, even during the bubonic plague. Fortunately, we're not in something that dire, but certainly, there are allies, and I don't think there's just one remedy for any ailment. I think that, different things are going to work for different people. So it's really a good idea to be prepared for anything. And, right now we're seeing so many people on our planet, really in survival situations. And I think that's another thing we might want to be paying attention to.
Yeah. Well, what I want to talk about is our mental health, and it feels very claustrophobic to many of us, given all the things that have been happening. But I want to point out that it is up to us to reclaim our own humanity and to empower ourselves. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we can look at everything that's happening. I believe that everything that we're being told should be questioned, and that everything that's being passed around in the news, real news, fake news, who knows what news is happening, needs to be looked at and examined. And then we also need to examine our own lives. And one of the things we can do to empower ourselves is to become educated in the advice that we're getting from Brigitte, Bethy, and Jenna of things we can do to improve our health, to improve our immune system. I recommend taking hikes if you can, nice, long, vigorous hikes, which builds up our lung capacity, which I feel will go a long way to helping with this particular crisis. And so I just wanted to throw a few things out there and just see what everyone else has to say to add to that.
Well, I think it's really important to look at that we need to take more responsibility for having local food. And just here in Colorado, our growing season got cut with the very late snows that we had. I think it was in April or May, and then, a big snow while it's still summertime. And so often our food comes from far away. How long ago do you think that kale that you buy at the health food store was in the ground? And so I really think that learning to take responsibility to create healthier soil in your own yard, your front yard, your backyard, your porch, your patio. I'm really big on kitchen gardening, learning to grow sprouts. But rather than food being something that only comes from a store and from other people, what could you do to build healthier soil where you're at? Could you start composting? We need to think about giving back to the earth rather than just taking. And we also have to realize that, things were a mess before this whole pandemonium. It was going in a really bad way, and with issues like climate change and environmental catastrophe and superstorms and super fires, things like we've never seen before. So I think that it really is an important time to think about what would I do in an emergency. I know in our household we've been replacing a lot of things with solar implements, like a way to boil water, solar, a solar oven, a solar phone charger. These might be really good gifts to get because we are so reliant, and power could go out. I know people in the Midwest who have been without power for a number of weeks since the unprecedented Midwest hurricane. So what are you doing to be more self-sufficient? Do you have food? It's said that if there was a crisis, that food usually will be gone in about 3 days. So I'm big on, thinking about having some things ready, and things that maybe don't need to be cooked. One of my favorite foods that would be wise to stock up on are chia seeds, because all you need to do is soak them in water, and then you could add things to them. Do you know what to eat if you were lost in the woods or if all the stores were closed? It's said that the average American recognizes over 1,000 logos and the products they're associated with, and yet they recognize less than 5 plants in their area. And most people think, oh, there's a dandelion in my yard, I must go to the hardware store and get something to kill it, and not realize that when you do that, you're not only destroying the dandelion, you're destroying the insects, especially the bees, which are crucial, that pollinate 3 out of every 4 bites of food we eat really come to us grace of the bees. So let the dandelions grow. Think about creating an edible lawn. We'll have a movie coming out called Lawn Gone, because as my friend Justin likes to say, if you're mowing it, you're blowing it. We are using a third of our nation's water to water grass. And unless you're a goat or a cow, you're probably not eating that grass. And it's really very wasteful. So what if we use that water to create more edible lawns? So those are a few simple things that we can start doing in our own homes, and even, thinking about your own personal survival skills, whether it's learning martial arts or, having doors that lock well. We do see that there's civil unrest, and it's probably going to get more intense. There's too many haves and have-nots on the planet. Wealth is so unevenly distributed. So we need to find ways so that we can create more for everyone.
Yeah, we're growing gardens. Food for avatars is supercharging. It's the freshest of the fresh, and then you know your food is blessed. You have enough to give away, and it's a way to say, hey, yeah, I did my part today, yeah, to create a clean earth that can sustain new birth. Yeah, I said, hey, yeah, we got to work while we play. 'Cause we're making a new way, yeah. We are evolving today in every way. Hey. Yeah, we got to grow some gardens, we got to make our own. We got to just, put some seeds in the ground. Even if it's just a few tomato plants just this year, just grow it every year and just grow a new plant every year. And you can just see the abundance that comes from that. So,
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to say is Brigitte Mars is very knowledgeable about herbs and plants, and that one of the things that Brigitte does quite often are lead herb walks, where she goes through an area, a backyard, part of a woods, some part of the country, and she teaches everyone what plants are there, and then what plants are edible and what plants are not edible. Would you like to say a little bit more about your herb walks?
Well, unfortunately, most people think that weeds are something bad. And something I learned years ago is that most of the weeds that are coming up in people's gardens are edible plants. And most of the weeds are the ancestors of our vegetables. I'm sure you don't like thistles. They are prickly and gnarly. But do you know that you could pull up thistles after a good rain and eat the roots? And thistles are the ancestors of artichokes. Lamb's quarter, I know they have chemicals that can kill it, but it's wild spinach. Why would you want to kill it? Because if you have ever grown a garden, once it gets really hot, the spinach bolts and goes to seed. But the wild spinach is still thriving. And lamb's quarter, or wild spinach, is a relative of quinoa and amaranth. And not only does it give us greens, even until today we're still eating greens from the lamb's quarter. In the fall, you get seeds that you can eat as a grain, much like quinoa or amaranth. And another one that people think is, a purslane. People work really hard in their garden to pull that up. And it was Gandhi's favorite food. So we just need to re-educate ourselves. I think we've been bamboozled by a lot of the corporate companies to make us think that we could not possibly know enough to grow our own food or harvest our own food or identify our food. Sure, there's some poisonous things. And we also want to say, mushrooms are a whole nother thing. All mushrooms are edible, some only once, meaning you could die. But, once you learn to identify things like poison hemlock and poison ivy and water hemlock and death camas, which are a few of the poisonous plants we have here, learn the names of them. I hope that this is something to teach our children. We want everyone to be empowered to recognize that these are allies that don't deserve being sprayed, and they can feed us and make us feel like a superhuman. I'm going for superhuman here. I think we need that.
Yeah. I think a big part about survival also is growing plants and then keeping some of the seeds to share, especially with wildflowers and medicinal herb plants and all of the good things that we can eat out of nature that are all around us. And one thing that I've really been starting to recognize as I become more and more avid of a gardener is that the plants that grow, they grow in the season that we need them most. And so you look around at the wild things around and you start, I mean, once you really get acquainted with different plants, you start to see that things like feverfew grow in the spring and the fall, and you can basically cut it back in midsummer and then it starts to come back. And that helps with obviously like flu-like symptoms. And then there's just so many things that come up in season that they're most necessary. And I think saving and sharing seeds has been one of the biggest missions of mine at the honey store because, helping people make it easy to grow a perennial garden or even an annual garden that reseeds itself with volunteers is super heartwarming to share with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jenna, you have a very impressive garden. Why don't you tell us what is growing in there? Tell us some of the stuff you've got going.
Oh my. Well, over the years I've planted, things as I find them at the farmer's market or in seed packets or whatever people give me seeds, and I'm a big fan of growing culinary herbs, like the basic things that we use in our kitchen, like thyme and oregano, because those are super amazing antivirals and they help. Just a simple tea made of those plants can make such a difference if you're under the weather. It can shorten the duration of your sickness. So I have those, and I have a lot of bee-friendly, loving wildflowers. And Monarda is like a big favorite of mine because it attracts the bumblebees, and they just come around in droves. And I just feel like I'm doing the world a good thing because it's not so often that people see bumblebees, but you can find them plentifully, like the more things you grow. I have hyssop, 2 types. I have anise hyssop and then regular hyssop, which actually come out as like different plants. Like the hyssop is more of a shrub, and it just grows and grows and gets bigger every year and has beautiful purple flowers that the bees love. And these licoricey kind of leaves that are super tasty. You can just pick them off and chew on them or make a really good tea with them. What else am I growing? I have things that, just tons of carrots that I had like so many carrots just bolt this year. I don't know. For some reason I have issues getting carrots. It seems like they want to go to seed, but I guess those are medicinal too in their own ways. Oh, what else? I have lots of flowers. I just love flowers. Mm-hmm. So the bees love them too.
And when you're buying seeds, you might want to think about buying heirloom seeds, because another thing that's been happening to our food source is a lot of food has become seedless. Notice seedless watermelons, seedless grapes, seedless, tomatoes, seedless cucumbers, and yet seeds are the reproductive mechanism to create new growth. And it is to the advantage of these seed companies to create seeds that don't reproduce on their own, so you can't save your own seeds. And I really think that having a stash of seeds, of heirloom seeds that you can grow, is going to be very precious.
Yeah.
Save your seeds, they're the real gold. Save your seeds, remember we've been told. Save your seeds, yeah, 'cause we're gonna need divine plant genetics, wild and free. We are. And, I'm learning how to save my seeds and grow the food to the seed and then save it, dry it, and then grow it again in the cycle of that. And it's really powerful. So That's just what I wanted to share.
Yeah, and one of the ways we can empower ourselves is to learn and to grow our own food. And it's extremely important to realize that food doesn't actually come from stores. It comes from the ground and from nature. And it's beautiful. I've been learning about gardening this year, and it's very exciting. I've also spent a lot more time outside, and it just feels good to get more sunlight. So it's another topic I wanted to talk about. What is it about vitamin D that's so important, and why is light such an important factor?
Well, light enters our eyes and it affects our pineal gland, which is going to affect everything in our bodies. And many people go to work in the dark, they come home in the dark, maybe at work or school they're under fluorescent lighting. And yet we know that light really affects our biochemistry. We know that sleeping in total darkness is going to help melatonin production. And if we have a lot of light in our room when we're sleeping from the smoke alarm or a digital clock, that is going to disrupt sleep. So being more in tune to the natural rhythms of light is really, really important. And, you know, one of the nutrients that's been talked a lot about is helping our immune health is vitamin D. And we know that vitamin D we get from full spectrum sunlight. So getting outdoors and getting some light on our skin is a really healthy thing to do. And if we're slathered all the time with sunscreen and wearing sunglasses all the time, we can miss out on that. Of course, we can get vitamin D as a supplement, and the dosages have gotten quite a bit higher in recent years. We know that vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so if you're going to take it as a supplement, think about taking it with a meal that maybe has some, olive oil or butter or salad dressing or something like that with the meal. But we know that when edible mushrooms are exposed to sunlight, they contain vitamin D. So this is a really easy thing to do. It's been found that people who have weakened immunities often are deficient in vitamin D, and it's very inexpensive. And yes, we can get it from nature or we can get it from a pill, and we can do both. But that is one thing that's been very well researched that we know is safe. And I think that we're impairing ourselves from vitamin D if we're always all dressed up. And I hope that if you're hiking alone in nature, that you're not wearing something on your whole body, including your face, because sometimes you might see me at a stoplight. I'm actually standing there with my mouth open, trying to direct sunlight directly in my throat, just in case I've absorbed any pathogens or had any contact. I feel like sunlight is a powerful healer, and it's free. So no wonder there's not a lot of research on how great it is, because there's nothing to sell anybody, at least not yet.
The secrets and codes of the cosmos emanate from the sun where the light comes from. So get in it, with your bare skin and let it touch you with the information. Radiate with the light from beyond, pouring down through us like a cosmic song, waking us up to the truth that we are intergalactic supernatural stars.
I recently learned this year that actually letting light shine on your belly is a really good spot to absorb vitamin D, because it's like your solar plexus. I feel like it is our inner sun. And so it makes sense to me to, even as a woman, free it up here and there and, go out away from people if you feel more comfortable and let your skin touch the sun, and you will feel better. No doubt.
Okay. And I'd like to also just talk about making choices about what we do. And we're in a situation where we can make improvements in our lives, and many of us have more free time, maybe a little less money. Things have changed, and my advice is to find what you love to do, what you're good at and what you love to do and do it. And that can be a wide range of anything, and that's what is so great about us human beings, is that there's so many possibilities. So for me, it's all about reclaiming our humanity. And I just want to add that as a little subject title. How can we reclaim our humanity?
Well, during this time when people are home more, there's not a lot of outside activities the way it used to be. So I hope that we're using this time wisely. And where we put our consciousness can have a huge effect on us. If we're just reading books and watching movies and TV shows that don't really teach us anything and fill our minds with fear and violence, like what are you going to have to show when we move on to the next phase of our reality? And I know a lot of people are talking about they're working on their homes, and that's a noble cause. And I love the idea of fixing things. That's great feng shui. Creating home and hearth is a very valuable thing. I also really love the idea of people doing things with their hands, and I think that that's an art that has fallen by the wayside. And very often, out of boredom and nervousness and anxiety, people often overuse substances. And, I have to say that some of those crafts that our ancestors did, whether it be whittling with wood or sketching or playing music, sewing, knitting, embroidery, crochet. I love all those things. And I think we would have a lot less dementia and a lot less addiction if we did things with our hands. And how wonderful to be creative. And so maybe there's something you did in your youth, but I find that this is a great way of dealing with anxiety and stress. I know a lot of people have talked about putting on a lot of weight during the quarantining time. And yet, if you're doing something with your hands, you're not going to have your hand in the chip bowl so much, hopefully. And by creating things of beauty, you're improving your self-esteem. Maybe there's things that you can pass on to your descendants that will be of eternal value. This is, you can't get, mama love in a blanket that you buy at, Target. So making things for your descendants is really a gift of love. And, I love listening to music, but I also love hanging out with people that create music. And having that creative outlet is really important. So where we put our consciousness is a huge deal.
Where you gonna put your precious consciousness? This is our freedom. Or what will be your reasons? Where you gonna put your precious consciousness? What if we all focus on opening the lotus? We'll make a magnum opus with peace as a locus. Yeah.
My newest pastime is making beeswax candles, because I know that beeswax has as many healing properties as any of the bee products have. It actually purifies the air by putting negative ions, like a air purifier that you would otherwise plug into the wall and use energy to operate. It magnifies to pathogens that linger in the air, and as it makes these particles larger and larger, they drop out of the air. And also it helps with getting more away from the unnatural light, and it could even be a spark for some creativity, because, working by candlelight is a very ambient, relaxing, and a spiritual connection that you can achieve. And the glow of the beeswax candle is like no other. There's no black, icky smoke that goes up into the air. It's, a natural way to light your home, and you can enjoy the aroma as well. It has a very sweet aroma from the bees.
So many candles are actually really toxic. and many of them are petroleum based. And I know I used to like to buy those religious candles that you could burn for a week, and a week later, there's nothing left in the candle because all of that petroleum goo is now on your carpet, your curtains, your windows, and it's really hard to get off. There was a study done where they put dogs, I don't like animal studies, but they put dogs in a confined area with petroleum based candles and they developed lung tumors. So, while we're working on our homes, let's think about ways that we can green our homes. I have found in the past few years that you can clean almost everything with baking soda and white vinegar. We really need to stop buying those polluting products. We think that it's our house and we can do what we want, but everything that goes down to the drain ends up in our water table, it ends up in the environment, it ends up in our skin. You might think that those fabric softener sheets are just affecting you, but when they go out into the exhaust, it's affecting all your neighbors and the wildlife that's out there and the plants. So it's time, to think about how can we green it up, because our planet has been in a mess and there's way too many companies that are polluting, and we want to support the companies that are doing a good thing. And it's really easy to learn how to make your own cleaning products. We can use essential oils that smell really nice, that make cleaning fun, and that are also antimicrobial.
Sometimes at the music festivals, the summer music festivals, which are not happening in the way they were, at least this year, but I teach a workshop in the history of electronic music, and I make the point that people getting together listening to music has been going on for many millennia. It's been what brought us together. They have found that in the caves where there's drawings of antelopes and other wild animals and so on, that many of those caves are acoustically perfect, and they've even found some ancient musical instruments in these rooms. So people were probably banging on rocks and making noises with their voice that we don't have archaeological evidence of, but nevertheless, I'm sure that this has been happening, and it's why we exist as humans, having gotten together in larger groups. So we're under restrictions. I believe it's state by state. The rules are a little bit different. In Colorado, I believe we're allowed now to have gatherings of up to 10 people. And I recommend getting together with people. Reclaiming our humanity is also dancing together, sharing music together, having fun together. This show is called Light It Up, and we can also lighten it up by just enjoying ourselves and each other. And it's a wonderful feeling. There's nothing like music to take us away.
And music can also be a way to harmonize together, a way to co-create and share in oneness. I feel like that's a real peacemaking effort. I know that in this time of pandemonium, some people are really afraid of singing because it might expose you to droplets of horrible things. And so I really hope that we don't forget the gift of singing, how wonderful it is, and hopefully that we find ways that we can still partake in this ancient art.
Well, maybe time to return to singing in the shower.
Or singing in the rain. I wanted, since we were talking about growing things, and before we get too far off that topic, there's a proverb that I want to state. I love to say this because it's so important. It's an old proverb. It says, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is now. And fall's a really good time to plant trees, and you can buy trees. They're not that expensive. If you buy really young trees, you can't be, too attached because not everything is going to grow. But how wonderful to plant a tree, and especially something that's going to bear fruit, this is a way of providing for our future. And even if you don't live there, wouldn't it be wonderful if you moved into a place and there was a plum tree or a apple tree? So, um, don't just plant things that are ornamental and have pretty leaves in the fall. Think about something that is going to feed the future. And, trees also provide habitat for the birds, and you can plant things underneath them. And you plant them once, and they come back year after year. And I like the saying, fruit are the children of trees.
We're going to change the conversation in a few minutes to what do we do if we happen to get ill or if we know someone who gets ill. But I wanted to now invite callers. I think we have to hang up the receiver here. And if you would like to call, and now is a good time to do so, and add comments. You could ask us any questions or add your comments and perspectives on any of the topics we've talked about thus far. Give us a call, 303 524 4864. And I believe we're going to put that in the chat as well. 303 524 4864. Okay, we got one call. And if you haven't called yet, please wait until we're done with this. Hello, and thanks for calling Light It Up. Who's calling?
Are you ready?
We are ready.
I'm gonna sit on the floor for this one.
Oh,
Okay, you have
we're
a
ready.
question?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, please state your question or comment.
Oh no, this is Jade and Rainbow Mars.
Oh.
Just calling in.
Oh,
Oh.
For you all.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
good,
oh, super.
good timing. We just invited people to call in, so.
Are you ready for a little presentation?
Sure.
Okay, Brigitte, why don't you just say
Okay. Thank you so much for calling. We have on the phone live from Los Angeles, Rainbow Mars and Jade Mars, my daughter and grandmother. So you have 3 generations here. Oh, granddaughter, my daughter and granddaughter. Yes, 3 generations of Mars women here. And they're both talented artists and are quite activist. I know Rainbow has been on TV for Edible Lawns. She's been in the LA Times. She gave out worms for Halloween, along with soil and dirt and seeds. But of course, Good Morning America zoned in on the worms. But she's written a rap, and we might hear from Jay too. So we are ready.
Okay, well, this is a freestyle. It's not a rap. We're in the moment. But
Oh.
let's start. Ready, Jade? We're going to start with an all. We invite you to all join us. Okay, ready, and. Starting with an ohm so we can get into the zone. Calling for the Mars girls. We're going to lay some bars for us so we can be still. Fulfill from inside the ground is the silence of the sound. We can be in this life that is so profound. I'm going to give it to the youth because there is proof, there is hope. We can heal our world, all nations and generations. This is our salvation to heal the herbs, allow them to be our demonstration of survivor. It might take a moment, let us own it. What you got, Jade?
Becoming love in the nation, there is no separation. Transparently attuning to the frequency, feeling our vibrational unity. Love, love, love.
From within and below, all generations. This is an epigenic salutation that we go inside of our womb to give room for the new. Let all things go to death. Let it rest. We can't take with us all those things that don't allow trust. May we realize from the inside that we are all eyes. Let us be the rhythm and the why. For unity within, let us begin. Here and now, we are the ones we've been waiting for. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? I am you, you are me, we are family. This is the Trinity and unity. Thank you, Buddha Bob and Bethy Love Light. Thank you from the bees and all eternity. We love thee.
Blessed be.
Yay!
you.
Rainbow Mars.
Jade
Jade
Mars.
Mars.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah. Thanks for calling. Thanks for adding your.
If you guys have any questions, we're just really here to support. We love you guys. Thank you so much for inspiring all of our wild edible gardens here. And it's just amazing when you actually plant seeds, how it can continue to nourish us with fruits and flowers. And it's just such an incredible gift for us to be part of the solution. And we can all do it together. We can create hope and realize that Earth is God. And so we're just so excited for that offering and that prasad to be happening.
Thanks for being part of the solution and doing it out there on the West Coast. Be well, be safe. We love you and appreciate you. Thank you.
Love you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And we could take another call if somebody would like to call us in. 303-524-4864.
So while we're waiting for a caller, I'd like to mention another simple thing we can do to create a better world is we are going to need to learn to respect water a lot more. We have been so used to just wasting water and letting the water run, and we use as much water in one flush of the toilet as someone in a developing nation might use all day long for their bathing and hygiene and food needs. So another proverb that I heard is if you have water to throw away, throw it on a plant. And what if we started respecting water more and we all had a basin in our sink and we just collected the water that would be used to rinse a dish or rinse an apple or something, and then opened the door and gave it to a mint plant or a raspberry bush or a squash plant. It's just a way of giving back rather than being so wasteful. And if you're really using biodegradable products or just a few drops of essential oil, which I often do in my bath, I use my bath water to water the plants on the balcony. So, you know, my father used to say wars of today are being fought for oil, and he predicted that wars of the future would be fought for water. And I think we're not too far from that when we see how water is privatized. I certainly remember, 40 years ago, nobody bought bottled water. Everyone just drank water out of the tap. And now we're aware of, how many chemicals have to go into that water to even make it safe to drink. And I know we're blessed because at least our water isn't going to, give you giardia, usually our city water, but it's time to realize that water is precious for everyone and we need to use it more wisely. And it's, I love the book by Starhawk, The Fifth Sacred Thing, because the way they say goodbye to each other is, may you never thirst. And I just want you to really think deeply about that. May you never thirst. We've been so used to having an abundance. And, what if the water didn't keep coming out of the tap? What if you had to walk a long distance to go get buckets of water? What if our rivers and streams were so polluted it wasn't safe to bathe in them? These could all be part of the future. So let's prevent that now. Think about knowing how to access water and how to use it more wisely and with more appreciation.
Because every drop of water is precious. And once we realize all the waters are within us, then we see the true responsibility. Let's purify ourselves and let's act consciously. We are the water. May we use it conservatively and may we bless it. And may we know that when we put our intention into the water, it actually transforms the water molecules into something that's more hydrating and more blessed and more healing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not such a huge fan of drinking the treated water that they make safe for us. My love of living next to these mountains is that we have abundant mountain springs. And I am a big fan of taking a day trip up to go for a hike with all my water jugs that I've collected. Try to keep it glass as much as possible, but the plastic jugs also are nice. I just think that drinking pure water and filtering your water if you don't have access to really good water off the mountain glaciers, that you can still find high quality filters. And also, like for emergency survival, it's not such a bad idea to have a portable water filter on hand in case you need to be evacuated, which we have had quite a few large portions of our population on the West Coast of people are having to flee their homes, and just want to send blessings out to all you people that are being threatened by these fires, and just praying that the people that are fighting the fires stay safe. And I just think it's such a sacred thing to have an abundance of water, but we still need to be super mindful of how we use it. And I'm super grateful that I have a spring with all these amazing minerals, and it doesn't have chlorine or fluoride or any of these chemicals that they have to add to make our water safe. So it's a good thing to find a local spring if you can.
For sure. And yeah, water is a incredible topic, and we could actually have a whole show on water. We do have a question which came through the chat. You're welcome to add questions or comments. Question is, what's your thoughts on alkaline or distilled water?
So I have to say I use spring water myself. I like getting water from up in the mountains. We get Indian Peaks water delivered. Alkaline water, I like drinking it when I have access to it, but I don't have a device to make it alkaline. I did have a water distiller, but it seemed like it took a lot of energy to run the distiller. And so I didn't really keep it going. I do sometimes put out buckets to collect rainwater, and I do have, I'm collecting gray water off our roof from the snow melt and the rain to water the garden. I think that's another way we can all be more proactive in protecting water. But I'd have to say that's not something that I'm so keen on either way. I'm open to learning more about it, but I don't have a big preference. And I try to get alkaline by eating more green leafy vegetables.
Definitely. Yeah, the minerals in water are super amazing.
Yeah. I'm a total spring water fan. And, even if you can only afford 1 8-ounce glass a day, just do it. Just find some beautiful, alive spring water. I like mine really cold, like the way it comes right out of the earth. And I find that the most refreshing.
Yeah, and that's like Jenna was saying a little while ago, we have well springs in many places in Colorado. I think there's an app, Find the Spring, and you can just go there and fill up your containers with water. It's a beautiful thing, actually, to do. Okay, well, I think we'll change the topic just slightly and talk about what do we do if any one of us listening, watching, or somebody we know gets ill? What are some things that we can do? What would we all do if we got ill?
Well, I have certainly been ill, and being a mother and grandmother, and a health practitioner, I've certainly worked with a lot of people who are sick. So what we choose to eat when we're sick, it can have a huge impact on how long it takes to get well. So hopefully if you're sick, you are going to choose your foods wisely. So some of the things I like to recommend are a baked sweet potato or baked winter squash with a lot of chopped raw garlic in it and a little bit of olive oil and some Celtic salt. It tastes good. And garlic, as I've mentioned, is not only antimicrobial but bronchodilating. I also like things like applesauce with cinnamon. Cinnamon is also a wonderful antimicrobial herb. And applesauce is easy to digest, and it's easy to make yourself in the blender or with a food processor. You don't have to buy a, canned sugary product. Miso soup would be another thing I like a lot. Sauteing some onions with chili powder or curry powder. Also, getting really hot, spicy Thai soup, the number 3 spicy Thai soup. You can do it with, vegan if you like, which is, I usually do it with tofu, but it's the spices that are so antimicrobial. And you can feel that if you're congested and you eat something that is hot and spicy, it opens your lung passages. I know you probably experienced that eating wasabi, with sushi, for example. It is not only clearing to your sinuses, but infection fighting. There's also a simple folk remedy that has been around for a number of years, and it's been kind of controversial over the name, but there's something called fire cider, and this is a really easy thing to make at home. It's basically horseradish, which is easy to grow, or you can buy it at the store. Just chop up horseradish, add garlic, onions, ginger, chili peppers, honey, and apple cider vinegar. Just mix all that together, and I'm not going to tell you exactly how much of each one, but there's many recipes online. There's a new book that just came out on fire cider, and I'll tell you, no pathogens are going to survive that. It's really strong, and you can take a spoonful of it every hour if you need to. That's a really easy thing to do. And know that there's a lot of very effective infection fighting herbs out there. I've mentioned a few, but I want to say that oil of oregano is potent. And I personally, not everyone likes to do this, but I like to bite into the oil of oregano oil capsules. You won't like me very much if you take my advice on that for a few minutes, but you'll see why I said to do that, because I think your stomach doesn't need the oil of oregano at the moment. You want your lungs and your sinuses to have it. But nature has blessed us with so many strong infection fighting herbs, things like isatis, baptisia, elderberry, echinacea, golden seal. I think I said andrographis twice. But again, Jenna mentioned thyme. So if you're making a soup, adding thyme, rosemary, and a lot of the culinary herbs are even more antimicrobial if you use them young and uncooked, rather than heating them or boiling them. So even if you do saute them in the beginning, adding another dose at the end of your dish. Another simple thing we can do is diffuse essential oils that are antimicrobial. So in the sick room, having a diffuser going, I like to use fir, Siberian fir. I like oregano oil, all of the citrus oils, tea tree oil, even lavender, rosemary. Remember that all of those essential oils that are found in plants are part of the plant's immune system. They exist in our plants to help our plants be less prone to infection in case a leaf gets broken, rather than fungus coming in and inhabiting the plant. Because of those essential oils, they're going to detract predators, and many of them attract pollinators, our wonderful allies in the insect realm. Again, vitamin C is another vitamin, but a lot of people think that drinking orange juice is going to be their savior, and I have to say that most orange juice, especially from concentrate, has been cooked and cooked and cooked until it's just a paste, and then they reconstitute it with water, and then add some cheap synthetic vitamin C, which is usually made from fermented corn. So you'd be better off eating an orange than drinking a lot of orange juice. Gargling with salt water, taking vitamin C, zinc, especially zinc that is lozenge form, where you're sucking on zinc lozenges, that actually inhibits the replication of cold and flu virus. So you see, a lot of these are really simple things, but somehow we've thought that we really can't take care of ourselves. And I know that there's so many great health professionals out there and wonderful doctors, and many of whom are my friends. But I'm also encouraging all of us to do what we can with every bite we take to make a conscious decision to, is this health building or is this going to be detracting? And so, eating things like, cheese and milkshakes and ice cream when we're really sick is just going to create a lot more phlegm. So that's not what we want. We've heard that, when people are sick with this thing that's going around, whose name I will not say so we don't get censored, very often people have blood clots and coagulation. And there's a number of things that are going to prevent blood from congregating, getting stickiness. So things like ginger, garlic, and cayenne are all our real allies. So these are things that you can learn more about. You can go and talk to people at natural food stores or Pharmaca in the urban vitamin department, and they can help you. I also want to say that there's some wonderful mushrooms out there that are immune stimulating, like reishi and shiitake, and cordyceps is another great respiratory mushroom. So it's not like this stuff isn't available. You just have to take the initiative to learn what it is. And I think it's good to be prepared and have these things in your home, because if you're getting sick, you don't want to go out and expose other people. You want to have what you need at home. And we often find that when something does happen, and it happens very suddenly, a lot of things sell out really quickly. Like, masks and hand sanitizer, those gloves, those things were gone like, day one. And of course, they've come back in multiple colors, shapes, and sizes and scents. But, it's good to be prepared for anything. Didn't we say that when we were scouts as kids?
Absolutely. Be prepared. Okay, we have another question here from the chat. Interesting one. Brigitte's Essence is where it's at. Do you ever give scholarships to your classes? So you're on the spot now.
Oh, thank you so much. I do have wonderful apprentices in my life that do work exchange. And right now I'm in a semester, but if you go to my website, Brigitte Mars, you'll see that I offer all kinds of classes, and many are on Zoom, and I teach often at Rebecca's Apothecary. But, my prayer every day is to make a positive difference. And I feel that, we all have a tagline of what we want to be known as, I guess. And besides being the eternal flower child, I'd say that my prayer every day is to be of service, to help reconnect people with plants. And that's one way I can be of service to the Creator, by saying, look, you gave us all these wonderful plants and they're mowing them down and pesticiding them. It's crazy. Let me help you. I'm on your team.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I have a question. You mentioned things to eat when you're ill, but aren't there times when it's better not to eat?
Well, it is said that what cannot be cured by fasting cannot be cured. So, fasting, isn't for everybody, but I have done long fasts. And when you fast, and it can be a water fast, but it could also be done with like juices, or a lemonade made with maple syrup with a little cayenne pepper in it, or it could be with herbal teas like dandelion or burdock. So you're actually helping the cleansing process, and that gives your body a chance to rest and focus on curing the disease, rather than just digesting. And so eating light, very often when we're sick, we don't have a big appetite. And the idea that you're going to make somebody eat for your strength, I totally don't buy, feed a cold and starve a fever. It really could be appropriate to say, starve them both. But drink plenty of liquids if you so choose. And this is something you might want to read about. But I know when I was in my 20s, I did a very long fast to avoid having a surgical procedure, and I avoided it, and I never looked back. That made me decide, I'm just going to keep studying natural medicine, because this stuff really works. And for those of you who think, I'd be so hungry, you're really only hungry the first, 1 or 2 days. And after that, it's really quite easy, and it's wonderful if you can use that time for your healing, like napping, soaking in healing baths, like with Epsom salts or with essential oils in the bath, or going to a hot springs, getting a massage. In some cases not. You don't want to expose your massage therapist to whatever you have going on, but in any case, yes, I'm a big believer in fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Life in the fast lane.
Yeah, and one of our viewers, a friend, Billy Love, sent the URL. It's called findaspring.com. So we recommend drinking water from well springs, natural well springs. So findaspring.com will show you where they are in your, wherever you are, what the closest one or ones are. And fortunately in Colorado, we have quite a few. Even in Boulder County, there's quite a few.
And we really don't want to just, buy plastic bottles for all our water needs. Let's say you're really thirsty and you need some water. You could go in the grocery store and buy yourself an organic cucumber and get water and eat the container that it comes in.
Yeah. Eat your water, they say.
Yeah. Jenna, I know you take some supplements, and I'm just curious, what would you recommend if somebody got ill? Do you have some supplements you would recommend?
Well, yeah, I think number one, for the bees, from the bees, I should say, is this beautiful resin that they make. I'm going to pull some out here because the bag might reflect. But it's like this waxy resin, and basically the wax part is the beeswax, and then they collect from pine sap. It's basically sap from needled trees, and just like our immune system, just like for our immune system, it is like the immune system for the hive. They seal all the cracks around their hive with it, and basically it keeps pathogens and critters from getting in and throwing off their inner ecosystem. And it's really a beautiful medicine for internal use and external use. It is antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory. And so I use it personally to help with, I have scar tissue in my esophagus, and just squirting some of it in a glass of pretty hot, but drinkably hot water, it just helps clear out anything that you might have breathed in or swallowed that might actually lead you to getting ill, like a virus or some kind of bacteria that you come across. And there's a lot of those, as we know. Yes, and then related is obviously honey. Honey is a pretty amazing medicine, especially, raw honey and local honey is probably the number one, but there is this really special honey called Manuka honey, and it comes from the tea tree, which we get tea tree oil from. And it's been known to help with all sorts of things like Helia pylori bacteria imbalances and candida, and just antiviral. Again, you can actually mix it with the propolis. And about the propolis, it's best to extract it in alcohol, and then you can use it externally and internally.
Okay. Sorry.
Caller?
Yeah, let's try this call.
Yeah.
Or not. Okay.
Trick.
And propolis makes a great throat spray too for a sore
Yes.
throat. So these things are easy to get, and support your local beekeepers. For a long time I didn't buy any bee products because I wanted to save the bees. But since the bees are dying at such an alarming rate, we really need to honor those that are giving service to
Yes.
helping to keep the bees alive and provide organic habitats for them to collect pollen from. Because, if the bees disappear, it's going to be curtains for humanity. And, right now, vanilla is one of the most expensive spices in the world because it has to be hand pollinated because the bee that used to pollinate it has become virtually extinct. So, guess how much apples and pears would cost if they had to be hand pollinated?
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for calling. Light it up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I was wondering if you had any recommendations for local honey.
Well,
Yeah, I have a store up in Lyons if you're here in the Boulder area called Let It Be Honey and More Store. And I sell quite a variety of local honey, all the way from basically right outside the store when we're lucky enough to get the local Lyons honey, which is this beautiful, thick, unfiltered amazingness with you can like see the particles from the hive still in it. He doesn't heat or filter it at all. Right now I don't have any, but this fall I sell it in bulk for people on a budget for local honey, $5.75 a pound, and up if it's like a little bit harder to get, or like I kind of work with like what the beekeepers have as far as like supply. And but yeah, it's a great place to come. I have high country honey and all kinds of different honeys, like herbal
So,
infusions
one more
and
time, that's Let It Be, and is the name of the store, and where is it located?
it's 4689 Ute Highway, just east of the 36 and 66 junction. As you're going from Boulder to Lyons, you go right at that light. It's a stoplight, 36 and 66, and it's on Ute Highway 66.
Got it. Hey, thank you so much. I love what
Hey.
you guys are doing, by the way. God bless you all.
Blessings.
Bless.
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for the call. Okay, and we got another interesting question on the chat. Have you ever used amplifying quartz crystals next to the roots of certain herbs to enhance their powers? Like moringa with a double terminated tri-tip.
Well, I do really appreciate moringa, which is a very useful plant. It doesn't grow here in Colorado, it's more tropical, but moringa leaves and seed pods are all edible and really high in protein. But I have put crystals around sick plants. And, for any of you who think, oh, wow, now they're really getting new age, I want to tell you that healing with precious stones and gems is very, very ancient and has been practiced all around the world since, ancient Babylonian times. And I've used them with humans too. And, you know, uh, gems are concentrated energy. They have a vibration, they have a color, they have a temperature. And I can't say that I'm an expert on it. My focus has been food and herbs, but I do dabble with crystals and gems, and I've seen some really wonderful things with them. Rose quartz, and yeah, we have them all over the place. We have a biomat, like this amethyst bed you can sleep on at our house. So, yeah, I guess we're steeped in that too.
Yeah, I love to just lay different stones on me and relax. It's definitely takes you to another level.
Thanks for your question.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent question. Thanks, Anitra.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it would be interesting to see what it does to the plants. 'Cause I haven't done that.
Okay. Something we can all try out. Okay, we have about 15 minutes or so left in the show. So I wanted to talk about our third major topic. What is death? Why are we so afraid of it? And what can we do to prepare for the inevitable?
Dun, dun.
Well, recently I have become an end-of-life doula, which is really a facilitator to help the person who is leaving as well as the family to make sure all their wishes are honored, because it's a really difficult topic for people to bring up. And I think that, if you, ask someone who might be dying, like, so what do you want us to do at your funeral, or do you want to be buried or cremated, or would you like to sing at your funeral, then your person thinks that you want them to go. And I feel that these are discussions that are really important to have. And one exercise in the Conscious Dying Institute, of which I'm a teacher in and graduate, is what if you knew you had 3 months to live? What would you do? What are some of the projects you would want to complete? And why don't you start doing those things now? So I think there's a lot of ways we can get ready for death. And, a simple thing is in yoga practice, Shavasana is preparation to die. And it's said that every time we skip Shavasana, a unicorn dies. So don't skip your Shavasana, okay? But the psychedelic experience can also be a way of preparation for death. So it looks like we have another call here, so
Yeah,
we'll just...
give it a shot. Hello, and thanks for calling Light It Up.
Hi. Thanks for answering.
Thanks. Do you have a comment or a question to add?
I was just wondering how you guys are all doing. My question was that, and how are you guys dealing with like self-care rituals and stuff like that during these tough trials that we're facing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll answer that.
Okay.
Hi, Sophia. Thank you so much for
Hi, it's
calling
me.
in. Hi.
Hi.
So the number one thing that comes to mind for me is the sun. And I know that we're moving into a little bit of darker times, but while the sun is here and available, going out and getting sunlight on your chakra and getting it in your eyes. I just had LASIK eye surgery, so I get to actually get it in my eye without contacts or glasses. And
Oh, wow.
and actually, if you can find a safe and legal place to like actually, be naked in the sun, that is like the ultimate, because it truly activates the DNA, and I can feel my organs and all of my tissues, everything going, hallelujah, the light of life is like coming through and activating, and all I have to do is breathe consciously and let it do its magic. And I feel like, and I like Brigitte said earlier, opening the mouth and the throat to the sun, and the ears, and like are in all the lymph nodes and the armpits, and so light. And my yoga practice definitely is also a savior in all the time. And I had the version of this in the 18 version. I know we're on 19 according to the flow of the world, and I had the 18 version, and it was horrible. 3 weeks I was down and out, and all the things that Brigitte mentioned was doing those. Also with the oregano, not only do I crack it in my mouth, but I gargle with it. And
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and then
You gargle with the oregano and the garlic, or just the oregano?
Did I say oregano? Just the oregano capsules, biting into them. It's really intense. And for me, I need to have like a chaser of like, we make homemade hazelnut milk, and I chase that with some hazelnut milk because it's acidic, and that's really acidic. And so for my stomach, I would have that chaser. And I also would bump.
Really good recommendation.
Yeah, cool. And I would bump up like big time, like 30,000 to 50,000 liposomal A, C, D, and the sun. So taking D and going in the sun, and silver, and breath. It's really, for me, it's like the breath thing is so key. Every breath is our connection to the divine source, and taking a conscious, full, unmasked breath is affecting every part of our system, is increasing our immune system, is increasing our intelligence, is bringing oxygen and blood to our brain. So the more that we can click into every breath being conscious, the more awake we can be, and I feel like the healthier we can be.
And I'd like to add that, sometimes it gets difficult to find time for self care. So we often get up early. If you get up an hour early, then you really do have time for yoga or that hike or that run. Time to take your supplements. I, do wear a mask when I go to work, and I put essential oils on the mask. Today
Yeah,
was
I've been putting that geranium oil in my mask. It smells so good.
geranium lemongrass. I think that makes it a lot more doable. And rather than just breathing in carbon dioxide, you're breathing in something that is antimicrobial. Dry brush skin massaging before you shower is another great health practice. But really, so that every meal has like super healthy things in it. Like I mentioned earlier, colorful, green, organic, local, wild food. To me, eating wild food is a huge factor that I think we're missing out on. And when we look at this polluted planet and all the problems, one thing that's going to help our survival is to learn to eat the plants that are adapting to adversity, because there's a lot of adversity right now, and there has been for a while. But when we learn to eat the dandelions that can grow throughout drought, throughout the winter, that grows without anybody planting it, weeding it, fertilizing it, that is a super Jedi plant. And I feel like that is a missing link that can really bolster us, because when the going gets tough and the drought is intense, what survives? The wild weeds. So we need to be more like them so that we can acclimate to adversity, because it's here.
Right, right. Thank you for all of that.
Bless you.
Okay. Well, yeah, we need to wrap up a few things, but thank you, Sophia. Thanks.
Thank
for
you,
giving-
Sophia. Thank you so much for calling.
So should we go back to death?
Well, okay. Well,
We might have missed that call.
sorry. Yeah, we probably don't have time for another call.
But-
We're only 8 minutes in the show, and sorry. I wanted to talk about this whole issue with death. That one of the things that I've discovered is in my life is meditation. And meditation is just the practice of, there's many different techniques, methods, but just the simple thing is just to be present, awake, and aware. And in some sense, to the Buddhist practitioner, the meditation practice is actually a preparation for the moment of death. That we don't know when we're going to die. The time of our death is uncertain. And therefore, there is never a time not to be present and aware. So we don't want to have a lot of unfinished business. We don't want to be angry at people that we love, because we don't know when we're going to go. And we don't know when anybody else is going to go either. So it just, my recommendation is, whether you're doing yoga or any activity that you love, including meditation, just learn to be present, aware, and awake, and just realize that we're here temporarily, and just feel gratitude for the fact that we exist. Just think, if you traced your ancestors, all the amazing coincidences that happened through many, many generations to having us actually being here. So I just wanted to mention that.
And, before you are in a crisis situation where you are in a life or death situation, why not live your life taking care of some of those loose ends, like finishing projects? Do you have a will? Are you leaving a huge mess for those that will be there to clean it up? Maybe you need to organize your things, or get rid of things, or maybe even point things out, like, this is $1,000 vase, and this one's from Goodwill. Maybe delineate that. Are your finances in order? Do your loved ones know where your bank accounts are and where you buried the treasure in the backyard? You don't want to be dealing with all this stuff on your deathbed. Are there people you need to forgive now or ask forgiveness for? What is your spiritual connection? I love what Buddha Baum said about the practice of meditation and how it prepares us. But you don't want to be in a situation where, like, oh, I didn't really give it any thought, and here I am. What do I believe in? I would say give it some attention now while you can, And I think that however you feel right about connecting to source and divinity, like do it now. It's really a great thing just to know that that there is an adventure to continue on to. So, anyways, okay, we just have a few minutes left, but I think that talking about it and preparing for it before we're in a dire situation makes a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot of ways to prepare. I recently found out about a place in Lafayette called the Natural Funeral Home where they're doing more green burials. I mean, I really think we need to just be as eco as we can throughout our life and in our afterlife. So let's make it easy and let's make it a celebration. And you can even think about things and letting your loved ones know who you would want to speak at your memorial, or if you want a memorial, and how you would want your body taken care of, and what songs you would like to be played. So I don't think we need to fear it so much, and I don't know why we fear it so much, and I think it's because we haven't talked about it. And, some spiritual practice that makes us know that we can be so connected to divinity and it only takes a moment, I think is a great way to feel calmer into our adventure into the unknown.
We have a we have a continuity of consciousness our whole life, and when we're angry, it takes us a while to get off of that and get into another state of mind. Since we don't know the moment of death, the practice is actually to be open and aware at all times and to not get involved in disturbing emotions like that, not to indulge in them. And the moment of death, and then there's a moment after death, and then the next moment. So from the Buddhist perspective, consciousness, awareness continues from moment to moment after death. And so you want to go with an open mind and give yourself a favorable rebirth rather than being in a dark, degraded place. So I just want to encourage everybody to lift up and empower themselves. Be your own guru. We can't really get a circle around the guru like the old days. So be your own guru.
And know that guru is spelled G-U-R-U. But if we live our life, an exemplary life with kindness, with compassion, with forgiveness, with helpfulness, then I think it's going to be a lot easier to leave this planet with grace and ease.
'Cause we are stronger together, and the more diversity the better. 'Cause what we're looking for is kindness, and human beings willing to do their best, to work for the greatest good, so all are blessed. May all be blessed. May all be healthy, happy, holy, and free. May all be healthy, happy, holy, and free. May all be healthy, happy, holy, and free. May all be blessed. Yeah.
Bless you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in.
Light it up.
We have about another minute, maybe even 90 seconds left.
Sweet.
So just want to see if there's any last
Great.
thoughts before we close here. Are we all speechless?
Seems like that was a good wrap.
Yeah, well, it's hard to tough that. Okay, well, I want to thank again Raja and Nanda for providing such excellent technical support for us so that we could
Thank you.
actually do this show to the best of our ability. And I want to thank my guests, Brigitte Mars, Bethy Lovelight, and Jenny Melling for adding their wisdom to the show. And I want to thank everyone who was able to tune in to all or part of the show. And thank you for the phone calls and the questions on chats. This is a group think. We have to work this out and figure things out together. So stay tuned to more lighted up episodes the second Friday of every month from 8 to 9:30 Mountain Time.
Peace and love.
Light it up.